So tonight, give you a quick explanation of how to conduct a session and all the key factors that you need to include, how the scheme moves forward, the progression of the phonics, the digraphs and the tricky words. And as we move forward, there are some trigraphs, but only a couple. A quick explanation of some of the support material that's provided, including how to deliver feedback, moving on to your next group, time, pace, methodology, what that looks like, how to conduct an assessment, how to make a decision as to whether the child has reached the early learning goal in reading and writing. And then there's a little bit of supporting children with additional needs. That might be helpful moving forward if you're using this with year 1, year 2 children. It has been used by some friends in schools with years 3, 4 and 5. I've had children who've been new to the UK. And then a quick explanation of how to print and store the books, the information pack. Right, so how to conduct a session. Now, last week we talked about how to select your first group, what the assessment process looked like and how it was. In your information pack that you can download, you get your pre-scheme assessment information and you get an example of the grid. And again, it's about knowing what the children can auditory hear, do they recognise what sound this is, what sound does it make, and having a look at what their initial letter formation looks like. We're not expecting children to have perfect letter formation at this point, but we do need to know what their letter formation looks like. So if you do this, because your gut instinct will tell you who you think is ready, but sometimes those children who are really verbal and have lots to chitter and chatter about and seem really switched on, sometimes find it really hard to retain and apply those phonemes. So by doing your assessment, it'll give you a clear understanding of who's ready. So you've got a good match of skill set. You'll also have a clear understanding of any gaps. Now, excuse me, assuming there's not loads and loads of gaps, then because at the end of the day, it's a teaching programme, move on and hopefully select them for your group and you'll be able to fill those little gaps. But also you'll have done the concept print assessment as well. This I find absolutely invaluable. So many children these days sit with an iPad and then when they do have a book in front of them, they try really hard to swipe the page. Why is it not turning? Why is it not changing? And they don't always understand that you actually need to physically pick up a page and turn it over, and they've not got that pincer grasp. So I find this really helpful, and this will then enable you to have a good match of what sounds the children know, what phonemes they are aware of, and what their basic literacy skills are like. So when starting a session, I always give my children a half and half book. I really like these. You've got several lines, which come in super handy, but they've also got a nice space to be able to draw a picture. Children enjoy drawing, but it also supports that fine motor, that pincer grasp, that pen to paper, which some of our children won't have had a lot of experience of. So I also have with me a whiteboard, a set of my phoneme flashcards. So which phonemes are we going to see in this book? Well, today we're going to see the letter. Oh, remind me, what does this say? Oh, yay, well done. Right, let's have a look, see if we can find this in this book. I also show the children some flashcards of the words that we're going to see. In a little while, I've got several examples of books to show you. I'm going to explain how the scheme moves forward, the progression of it. And some of the books start to use some of the high frequency, the tricky words, common exception words, whichever terminology you use for them. So then I would have that flashcard as well. And certainly to start with, I would be showing my children, right, we're going to read this book. Here's your book, here's your super. Put your finger on the front cover. Super. Turn over. Put your finger on the first page. What can you see? And then we talk about, if you remember last week I showed you my little nod to aspect 7, how I encourage my children to listen to the word I'm saying and to put their finger on it, on that picture. I do this even when I'm up to into my phase 3 books, because I think it just gives the children 1 or 2 minutes just to relax, settle into the session and become aware of, right, this is learning time now, so you need to focus. Especially if you're doing this in a corner of a really busy reception classroom, or you're squirreled away in a corner on a corridor where they've just come out of the reception classroom and you've maybe got some free flow going on. I think it just gives the children a chance just to settle and be ready to learn. So, excuse me, I apologise. So then once we've done that, I would then be reminding the children, right, in this book, you are going to see this word. This is how it looks in this book. You'll see later that I've tried, where possible, to use lots of different sentence starters to give the children experience of letters, not just as the sounds that they see them in their first phonics session. In their first high quality teaching session of the phonics, we always present a flashcard as a lowercase. So it just gives us the opportunity to see it as a capital and a lowercase. And that's really handy, again, for supporting children with those early literacy skills. So I then work through the book with the children using all of that terminology. Put your finger on the first word. We're going to read the words on this page. Oh, how many words are there on this page? Again, it's solidifying all of those early skills. Oh, what's that gap? Why is there a gap between that word and that word? And at the beginning, you might not get an answer. And I don't always wait for an answer. I tell my children, so it's not, oh, she's trying to catch me out. It's oh, that's the space, the finger space, the gap between this word and this word. And again, I'd perhaps be holding up my whiteboard and saying, so this is my first word. This is my second word. Oh, what's this spot on the end? What does that mean? And I talk through all of that. In some of the books, there are some different punctuation endings to the sentence. We've got the odd exclamation mark, and we've got some question marks in there. Again, just to expose the children to them and to encourage them to use them. I then ask the children to, let's go back, let's find the page with the tap on it. Who can find the page with the tap? Brilliant, well done you, fantastic. Put your finger on the first word. Right, let's read that sentence again. Tap, tap, tap. Super duper. Then I take the books back off the children and say, right, you've got your workbook now. You're going to write a tap in your book. A tap. Let's have a look at mine. A tap, and I'll model it, put that scaffolding in place. A tap, a tap. Right, that's what you're going to do. Pick your pencil up and have a try. And that's when I put my whiteboard out of the way so that they can't see it. That is what I would do with my first group, my children who I think are ready to start this around now or in just a couple of weeks. My children who are displaying good knowledge of phonemes and some grapheme correspondence, and the handwriting's on its way. I would then ask the children to read me your writing. What does it say? That's brilliant. Loads and loads of praise. You've done some writing, so they know that, yay, this is writing. I'm writing. And then, depending on their ability, I might say, right, we're going to have another sentence. But I wouldn't give my books back out again. I'd just say, right, we're going to look at the page with the cat on it. Where does it say a cat? Oh, it's here. A cat. A cat. We'd read it together, and then I'd ask the children to write it. But again, putting it away so they can't see it. So I get a true reflection of where they are at. I then might ask the children if they would like to draw a picture. I start with 1 or 2 sentences when I start books 1, 2, 3, but I build up. So eventually my children are doing 3 sentences per group, 3 sentences per writing session, and an optional picture. Once we've got going, and I'm very aware that reception's children's confidence is fragile, it needs to be handled delicately, I might, or I do, I should say, I ask the children to, oh, let's just have a little look. I love that. I love it. Let's have a little try at, and then I would ask them to have a go at maybe a little bit of the letter formation of a letter that they've not got quite right, or I might highlight to them while they're with me, what did we forget here? And I'd point to where they've missed their finger space. And this is where my feedback sheets come in really handy. So I then just try and give them some of that verbal feedback so they know what I'm looking for. And, you know, certainly at the beginning, a big celebration of, yay, look at your writing, it's fantastic. And I can read it. I'm reading your writing, because ultimately we want the children to be able to write a phonetically plausible sentence or phrase. And it's got to be able to be read by other people, which is what we want. So as the scheme moves forward, the children, their knowledge grows and their confidence grows. I have children who now are in year 2. Are we going to do? Why don't we do any writing with you anymore? And they're really enthusiastic about it because they got that they got that instant feedback of, yay, I can do this. Then once the session is completed, you want to be able to see that the child's held the sentence and they've had a good go at recording it, and that they've demonstrated the skills that you've outlined to them. Right, we're going to write this word, it looks like this, and you've shown them on the flashcard. And as you move forward, that the feedback you've given them verbally at the end of one session and again verbally before you start your next session, that they've started to try to implement that. I think, you know, in theory, it's great to write feedback on children's work, but that doesn't always work with reception children because they can't read it. So I always speak to my children. And hopefully within just a few sessions, you should start to see that their skills are improving and that knowledge of basic literacy terms is improving. Because once you know what somebody's aiming for, oh, a sentence is a little collection of words. I know what that is now. Oh, and I know when she's saying to me, put a full stop at the end. I know what that is. So hopefully all of those things will be put into place. For some of your children, it will just be that, yeah, you have stuff that I need to turn over. When she's saying turn over, put your finger on the first word, she means that. She don't mean try and swipe it, because swiping doesn't work. So that's how you conduct a session and what you're hoping for. And this is where your half and half books are great, because for you as a practitioner, you've got plenty of space at the bottom if you want to write anything, or if you want the children to have a practice of something but they're not quite ready for doing it on the lines because it's a bit ski-whiffed, you've got space up here. So a few examples of the scheme, of the books from the scheme, and how this moves forward. I'll show you some examples of the phase 2 books first, and then just before we finish, I'll show you some more examples of the phase 3 books. So, oh, excuse me, just before I mentioned the sentence starters and the words that I've used and how I've tried to change them so that the children have lots of variety. Book 3 is the book. So the children will say the written as a capital, as a sentence starter with a capital letter. But then as the book moves on, they will then see the written in a lowercase. So they get exposure to both. And it gives you the opportunity to discuss that teaching point that, oh, that's a t and that's a t, but why are they different? And that's where, again, I would have my whiteboard and pen, and I would talk about, because it's going first, it's really important. It needs to look like this because it's the first letter in the sentence. Again, you're revisiting that terminology, but you're aware of it because you've done your pre-scheme assessment of who knows what a first word is. You're solidifying those skills. So this book, the book, has sentences in it of characters that children have seen before, because there's the cat that we had in book 1 and the dog that we had in book 1. But there's also the word and, which some people will say it's phonetically plausible because it is, and. But for some people, it's taught as a high frequency, a tricky word. So that's that book. And then we keep moving forward and we have exposure to other words. So then when we get to book 8, I deliberately did this to have a capital I at the beginning, because by now, by book 8, we've really got used to that says I. So then when I put another letter with it, why doesn't it say ite? Ite, why are you saying it says I? So there's all that explanation that goes with that. Again, flashcards on my whiteboard. They will have seen it in a quality first teach phonics session. However, this really helps to put them into practice. So it's deliberately got is next to it, because then it's a lowercase. And as the book moves forward, the words are then just swapped around. So it's the same 2 words, it's and is, but just in a different position, and it changes the sentence completely. Is it a? And there's the question mark. Again, to start to expose the children to some alternative punctuation, but also that it's got to have a stop at the end. You've got to finish your sentence, otherwise it's not finished. Book 9, slightly longer sentence, but again, it's got the and the in it twice, but this time there's no capital the. Book 10, we've got plurals. Revisiting the again, but we've got a plural in there. So we're listening really carefully to the end of the words. Listen. What do we hear at the end? We keep moving forward, adding to the phonemes as they're learning them, little by little, building on that exposure to the high frequency words. So then there are just a couple of books that are devoted to high frequency words, but again, all of them are phonetically plausible sentences. So that's an example of what's in this book. So again, at the start of your session, right, we're looking at the first page. I can see some words there. And depending on your ability in your group, you might just start off with let's count how many words we've got. Let's count them. Fantastic. Right, put your finger on the first word. Let's read it together. Can't sound it out, can we? Can't sound talk, that word. Right. Oh, it's one of those words we've got to remember. It's a tricky word. We've just got to remember this. So then these words are put into sentence format. Keep moving forward. So then we start to introduce some digraphs. We've already introduced the curly K and the kicking K together, C and K. But then as we move on, we start to introduce the phase 2 digraphs that come towards the end of the scheme. Qu, ch, sh, ng. So again, similar format. But the quick book, you'll notice it's really, really short, because when you start trying to build words, there's not a lot you can make without adding digraphs that come in phase 3. They're not in any of these. So you won't find a queen in this book, even though a lot of the time we say, oh, queen. No, because we've not learnt the E sound yet, so it's not there. The whole point of the books, the similarities, and it's very deliberate on our part. It's to give the children that confidence that oh, I've seen this before, I know what I'm doing with it. I know myself as a learner, when I've been studying anything, if I know the format and I know, oh right, this is a requirement, I've instantly felt more confident. So that's what we want for our children. Why would we not? So the fundamentals in each of the sessions stay the same. The children read the book with the adults. They then home in on a sentence. They're asked to remember that sentence. They're asked to repeat that sentence verbally. So what we're going to write, fantastic, that's what we're writing. Right, off you go, write that in your book, please. Oh, remember that capital letter, don't forget it. All the time, just giving those children that little pointers of what we're looking for in each session, and hopefully the children will start to have an understanding of what your expectations are. We've done a session with the children. We've hopefully, before we've begun, we've explained, right, this is what we're looking for, this is what we want. We've got a clear explanation of our learning objectives, whether you use a will for whatever terminology you give that, or whether it's just, you just say to the children, right, it's learning time now, and this is what we're doing. I then conduct my sessions. I give the children do the session. I then say to them, well done, you've remembered such and such thing, whatever they've remembered. Fantastic, love it. Oh, we've forgotten, whatever maybe they've forgotten. That K is going the wrong way. Needs to go the other way, doesn't it? But I love the way you've got your writing sat on the line. Really good. You've worked so hard. Excuse me. I think it's really important that we sandwich our feedback, our positive, negative, positive. It's heartbreaking when somebody just pulls you to pieces. So it's even worse when you're 4 or 5. So I always try and end on a high with it. But it might be really hard some days to find that, but I loved whatever it is that they've done, so that the children leave you feeling yay and super positive. I then write down some comments on a feedback sheet, especially because I was having 3 or 4 groups in the morning. And as much as I would like to sit here and say, yeah, I remember all of my children and exactly everything that took place in each session, depending on what else goes on in your day, you can't always remember if such body's pencil control was really good and such body remembered to, write that letter K the right way around today. So there is some information on giving feedback, but then there are some feedback sheets, little cards. There's 4 to a page. Now, the intention is that you photocopy this, cut it into the 4, and then one of these will last you the week, so that you write the children's name in, and then you write what you are aiming for, what the child's feedback is. Now, this is for you, the practitioner, to use. So however you choose to shorthand it is fine. I abbreviate things like an f-stop. Letter form might be let's form. So I know, because it's not about writing memes and reams and reams, and it's certainly, I don't think, much point in writing memes and reams when your child can't read it. But if I've got on here that such body needs to think about full stop, such body needs to think about the letter formation, such body needs to think about finger spaces, then when they sit down with me the next day, I can say to them, right, so we're going to think about our letter formation today, aren't we, sweetie pie? You need to think about, and then whichever letter it is, whatever. Then, right, honey, you need to remember that you need finger spaces, don't you, sweetie pie? We read the book, I remind them of what we're looking for, and I remind them of their own personal targets, because I've got it wrote down and it's just at the side of me. And then I just literally bulldog clip to the front of the books, so to the top book, and then I can just undo it, take it off. And when I give the children their books, I've just got it to the side. It doesn't take up a lot of room. It's not something imposing or what's she writing down on that clipboard, because again, we don't want children to feel that they're under too much pressure, because for some children feeling under pressure, it just shuts them down. And then they don't have the confidence even to try, or they're looking at you for every letter. What do I write now? Help me. What do I do next? So I found these really, really helpful. I also got that the children would then be saying to me, did I get that right? Did I do it? Because they know that that's what we're looking for. And again, sometimes it's like you end on a massive wow. And sometimes it's not always the case. And I wouldn't advocate that you ever bend the truth. I would be honest with them and say, not quite this time, sweetie pie, but I know you can do it tomorrow. So again, you just keep that positive going. The feedback sheets are for you, the practitioner who's doing the sessions with the children. I would say that they're not for anybody else, they are for you. So it's your feedback for the children, but it's your shorthand. But then when you're doing whatever you're doing in the books, you follow your marking policy, whether that's pink and green, however your setting does it. But I think there's a way of marrying the two together really, really easily. My final little point there, I think, is right. Remember, we want the children to enjoy their learning and to feel motivated and inspired to carry on. We want them to feel that, wow, I'm writing, I can do this, I can write. Right. We've done lots and lots of making your mark sessions and lots of books, and you're starting to think, right, are we getting close now to being able to meet the early learning goal targets? Are we there? Are we writing the required number of letters the right way? Is our writing, can we read it can it be read by other people? You as the practitioner will have a good understanding of that at certain points in the scheme. I've found that I've had children who were there, but they've just not got the odd diagram. So I've carried on with the scheme. So once you know who's nearly at goal, we have designed some, and again, they're photocopyable, downloadable, photocopyable. That's the whole point of all this. You can just print off as many if you want. Sets of 4 little pictures. Now, the way I did this, and the way I've done this with my children, is rather than it be, I give them a picture that they have to then decide what they want to write about. I've given my children each the 4 pictures and ask them to pick which one they want, to give them ownership of their ownership of their assessment. But if you want to do a standardised assessment, that's fine, and each child have the same picture. It's okay. But I ask my children to generate their own picture. Oh, so what might you write about the cats? Oh, cats. See if we get that one since we've done a book about it. Oh, look, the girl's patting the dog. I always make sure they know what it is we're talking about and what it is they're looking at. And then I ask them to choose one. Again, they stick it in their half and half book, and then they write their sentence. We run through it orally first, because sometimes, and your very chatty children might do this, they come up with a really, really complicated, super wordy sentence, which is fantastic. And I never, ever would say to them, no, you can't write that. But I might just, oh, yeah, and just cut it down a little bit so that they then hear my recasted sentence that's got slightly fewer words in it. I've brought a couple of books that I've got of children who did this for me. But the illustrations I used are not the illustrations that are with Make Your Mark, so I'm just going to hide them. This one is a picture of a cat on a bed, and the child wrote, the cat is sat on the, and they've tried to write the word bed, but they've done b, and they've crossed it out themselves and wrote the word bed. So I've put, because we use pink and green, an eye in a circle to indicate that was independent. They've then gone on to want to write something else, and they've written the cat is, and they've had a really good go at black. Then another child, because I'd given my children 4 pictures and they could choose, to hide the picture because it's not making you out a picture. I can see a map, and I love this. The map can help where to go. how fab is that? They've had a real good go at writing words that they've not been exposed to. And where's really hard. So I was really, really chuffed, and my children were awarded the gold. And that was in the March. Those children only started making your mark in the January. And of course, we've got February half term. So I think it does show how we can move forward at pace, and the children can achieve the goal before the deadline in June. Printing off and storing of the books. As I've said, if you purchase Making Your Mark, you get the 24 phase 2 books, which are all phonetically plausible and only use the phase 2 high frequency words. Now, when I was looking at this, and when I started to work with Clive and with Focus, we were really careful to make sure that we were in line with the majority of phonics schemes out there, but we weren't copying one particular one, because obviously they've got copyright to that, which is why when you look at the support materials, you'll find that the letters are in alphabetical order, because nobody owns that. So you get 24 of the phase 2 books, and then there are 14 of the phase 3 books. So you get all of those, which you can pick and choose to follow the order or not, and they are downloadable, and then you print them off. Now, there is some guidance with it, again, in the information pack, which you can print off and keep, or just look at on your screen. And again, it shows you how to do it, how to print off. The books can be printed at A4, A3 or A5. Again, it's your choice. And we have been sending our books home as well. The children have taken them alongside their guided reading book, because we can, sure my bursar would be very cross with me for saying this, but we can afford to lose 3 or 4 pieces of white paper that have been photocopied on, whereas we can't afford to lose a £5 or £6 book. So for some of our children who do have difficulty returning things, it still means they can take home a book. When you're printing, you can print off however many you need for your group, for your setting. In reception, we've got 7 books, 7 of each book in each classroom. So there's 14 of the books in reception, but each class have their own set. In year 1, there's just the 1 set, and the 2 year 1 classrooms share them, and it works. But all the information's there. I actually noticed at the beginning of this session, I'm not brilliant with a computer. So I actually find it easier just to print off and then put them on a photocopier, set the photocopier going, go and make a brew, take it back with me, take the photocopying back with me. If you are going to put them into a photocopier, when you first print it off, each of your pages will be the right way up. So then when you want to put it into your photocopier, if you just do it alternate, the right way up, the wrong way up, the right way up, the wrong way up, when you put it through and you ask it to do it 2-sided, it'll all come out the right way up. So I just set half dozen going at a time, and then I just staple them together. I've also used the images, and I've done little books where I've put it onto a piece of A3, and then I've cut it and folded it. So again, the children can take them home, because we're just losing paper. We're not using proper books. The way we've stored the books, there's been a couple of different ideas shared at school. The reception practitioners, I've put them in lever arch files with just the little clicky things on the top, and all 6 are, all 7 copies, a copy for the teacher, 1 copy for each child, 6-person group, are in a Polly Pocket with a divider, and then one of these little clips on the top, and they're just in 2 lever arch files. 12, the first 12 books in one, the second 12 in another. The year 1 teacher has got little zip wallets, and she's put the books in a little zip wallet, and then she's got them all in 1 box, and she's just got cardboard dividers with the numbers on, so she can just flick through and pull out the packet of what she wants. Again, it's whatever works and whatever storage space you've got, because there's never enough storage space in an early years classroom. So it suits you. Along with the books, you get the scheme of work and the contents pages, which will tell you exactly what's in each book. That the really handy when you're doing your planning and you're looking at, oh, need to revisit, I need to have a think. Well, just turning over now into, so book 7, book 8, what's going on in book 7, what's going in book 8, and it will say if there's a difference in punctuation, and it says if, for example, the book where it's the question book, it says how it's I as a sentence starter, but with another letter alongside it to help the children to know that it doesn't say ite. In the Lever Arch files, we have these at the front, and we also have a copy of the contents page in the front, so you can at a glance just see what's what. But again, it's all there for you to print off. And the printing, it takes a few minutes, but it doesn't take very long. And for the cost of it, if it gets lost, damage, one of the children's little siblings draws all over it, it's not the end of the world. Supporting children with additional needs. Again, there's an information pack. Each setting will have their own SEND support and their guidance for that. This is not a stop doing that. This is just how to support alongside. The books, because they're photocopyable, you can copy them to the required size that you need, whether it's be that you enlarge them, whether you reduce them in size. You can add pages, you can take pages out. It might be that for some children, they can only cope with the book if it's got 3 or 4 pages in it. Because it's on paper, if it supports the children's learning, then the sentence can be cut up. I wouldn't let the children see me do that. I would have their book, and then I would have an envelope with the cut up sentence in already, because we don't want to advocate that children take a pair of scissors to a book. But because the sentences are already there, and because you're just printing them off, it's dead easy just to cut them up. The whole point of this is to try and save as much time for people as possible. One of the other things I've done is I've used magnetic letters. I've had them just in little packs, so I can make your mark file. So then these are all book one, and it's the word pig. So in here it will say a pig, and I've used these, to be fair, with children who are almost really ready to start the scheme, but we've just been struggling a little bit with the what's a capital letter, and we need a finger space, because again, you put these on a magnetic board and you can make that divide for your children really easily. And I've just got little bags with little bags inside with it written on. It just makes it a little bit more hands-on for our children who are all wiggly, and a bit more practical. They can see it, then you can move on to the writing. But this, I also think, helps for children who are really struggling with that fine motor control. They still get that, wow, you've made a sentence, I can read your sentence. When you've given the cut up words, it's all mixed up. Can you make that sentence I can read? And then it's all there. Wow, I can read your sentence. Fabulous. It's all about making it bite-sized enough for your children, so that, again, children feel success. They feel, yay, I can do this. I'll be honest with you, the magnetic bit is a little bit time consuming, but once it's done, it's done. And I've got mine in a box, and it clearly states on it, for making your mark, please do not use. And I don't let anybody use them for anything else, because it is a little bit time consuming. But my children who were struggling found this really, really helpful. So moving on to phase 3. The phase 3 books, again, come with a scheme of work and the contents page. So you can see clearly, right, which book's which diagram or trigraph does it use. And this is where, depending on the order of the scheme that you're using, your order might be ever so slightly different, but not massively different to this. Ink, which appears in Make Your Mark phase 2, doesn't appear in every phonics scheme out there, as does the removal of your, the your. It's not in our phase 3 books. Our phase 3 books, it's the same Methodology as before, it's the same process. Right, let's open the book to the first page. Let's look at these pictures, identifying the pictures, sound talking those words. So, but you will have chosen the book that your children are at. Quick flashcard. Oh, remember, in this book, we're looking at this digraph. Oh, what's a digraph? Remind me. Yay, 2 letters that make one sound. Oh, this book's about a trigraph. What's a trigraph? 3 letters make you brilliant, super duper. And you move forward and you then again hold the sentence, write it in the book. And as you can see from the slide, it gives you a clear explanation of what the books are. So, and then the scheme of work gives you a more detailed description of what is to occur when you use each of those books. As the scheme moves forward, the sentence length increases. Our children's ability to retain that sentence should improve. Our children's ability to record a lengthier sentence should improve. Our children's ability to recognise and retain those high frequency words should be there. So there are more high frequency words in the phase 3 books. I'll quickly show you just 1 or 2. So A, what we've got in the book, and then your sentences, but then on the back, there are words for them to look at. I found this sometimes really, really helpful for my odd child who's just a bit confused with what the digraph is. By the time we've looked at these and we've nailed them, yay, super duper, you read that right. Oh, put your finger on the word that says chain, super. We've hopefully removed that misconception. So A, trigraph, fingers to work, I. And it keeps going and going and going until we get to the end where we've and then A with the words on the back. We're hoping by the time we've got into the phase 3 that they've definitely got a goal, but this really solidifies all of those skills that you've worked so hard to embed. And we found that using the books, certainly with our year 1 children, it's really helped them to get a more confident approach to sound talking and blending and recognising those digraphs and trigraphs. And sometimes it's the ones that are highlighted. So in this book, we're looking at the E digraph, but because we've already done A might be in that book as well. Can they spot it? It all helps towards that. Do I dare say it? The year 1 phonics screen. It all helps to support that as well. The phase 3 books have also really supported children who've gone into year 2 who are lacking confidence and have struggled with their writing journey so far, just to give them that extra little bit of a yay confidence boost. Creative writing. Now, again, the support material provided. Excuse me. You can use the images from the books. So if, for example, in one of the books, it's one of the high frequency word books, there's a bad dog. The sentence is, he is a bad dog. So, and my children really liked that because they like the illustration. So I then got that bad dog. But then we looked at, right, well, what can we call it? And we started that creative writing journey with them. He needs a name. So I try to give the children some examples of CVC words. So straight off, oh, it's called Dan. This dog's called Dan. This dog's called Bob. This dog's called Vic. Because it's a word that straight off, yeah, we can spell it ourselves. We can sound, talk and blend it. So, but in the support material, there's loads of examples of names. I then use just a really, really simple timeline, like a visual timetable that the children see every day, that's got a first, a next, or a first and then, depending on what terminology you use, and then what happens at the end. And I would stick my character at the beginning, or stick it on my whiteboard, and then we'd have a go at writing our own little sentence, our own little story about Bob the bad dog. Well, what did he do that was bad? That was in the middle, and how did it end? Mum told him off. Fantastic. But that's the start of a story. Again, the pictures, you can use them as part of the everyday write in your half and half books, or it can be something that you do as a standalone assessment. The creative writing ideas and the phase 3 books, it all comes together as the one package.